So here we are, and we get to share the afternoon together, which is really fortunate. Um, and I really congratulate you because the sun just came out. It may be the last time for the next 6 months or 6 years. Uh, and you've chosen to come hear the Dharma instead, which is actually much more beneficial for you than the sunshine. Um, So I think we're talking about practicing Dharma in living and dying. Is that the right thing? Okay. So before we start, I always like to do a little bit of silent meditation with people so we can kind of calm down and then set our motivation and get ourselves ready. Okay, so sit up straight, palms, hands right in the left, thumbs touching in your lap, and your back straight. If you're in a chair, put your feet flat on the floor. And then become aware of sitting here on the cushion. Feel yourself sitting and bring your mind to where your body is. And then become aware of your breath, letting it flow normally and naturally, but observe it. And you can focus either at your belly or at your upper lip and watch the breath from there. If you get distracted by a sound or a sensation or a thought, just notice that, but return your focus to the breath. And it's also very helpful to be aware of the transient nature of your breath, how the breath is changing every moment, never remaining the same. We give it the name, the breath, as if it's one thing. But when we look at it, there's a lot of different things that are in constant motion. So let's do that for a few minutes. Let the mind settle. And then let's cultivate our motivation and think that we will share together this afternoon and learn the Buddhist teachings so that we can identify and counteract the mental afflictions that cause our suffering, so we can identify and enhance the good qualities that bring joy and happiness to self and others. And let's do this for a long-term goal, seeking full awakening, so we can be of the greatest benefit to living beings. And in the meantime, may we make a positive contribution to society through transforming ourselves. May we bring peace to those around us. May we influence others in a positive way. So let's set that as our motivation for being together this afternoon. So the only place I go to speak where the mic always works 100% of the time and the PA system never fails is when I teach in prisons. It's the only thing about the Department of Corrections that works properly. But you gotta say something for it, yeah. Almost every other place I go, then we have to adjust with the PA. So actually, I was at a prison this morning. I went to Monroe, up north a little bit, and gave a talk to the Buddhist group there. And it was really lovely. The guys were listening so intently and really interested in wanting to learn the Dharma, wanting to learn how to transform their minds. Yeah. Because it happens sometimes that, when you really hit bottom, that's when you decide you have to change and when you have to practice. So some of the guys, because I do a lot of work in prison, some of them are really good practitioners. It's quite amazing. Then last week, I thought, just to give you a little introduction here, last week I attended a Buddhist monastic conference, well, not a conference, a gathering in California. And we do this every year, the Western Buddhist monastics from the different traditions. We gather together for 5 days and we talk to each other and about things of mutual interest, setting up monasteries in the West, teaching people how to adapt our monastic discipline to life in the West. So all of these kinds of things. And so this is the 24th year that we've done this. And the reason I'm telling you about this is when you think about it, it's really rather unique in the history of Buddhism. Because in Asia, there were so many traditions, so many Buddhists, but they were separated geographically and they were separated linguistically. So people from different traditions didn't meet and get to know each other face to face. And so what you had instead was sometimes misconceptions about other traditions that got passed down from one generation to the next. Whereas here, we gather together each year and we meet and we learn about each other's traditions and we talk about, current topics. And this cuts down on the sectarianism. It really brings everybody together in quite a beautiful way. And I think when, as different, people from different Buddhist traditions, when we can come together and really speak in a united voice about social issues, for example, then we can do a lot of good. So I left the gathering. I've attended, I think, all but 3 over the 24 years. And so you feel really inspired, these people who are coming and becoming monastics in the West, even though people have no idea what Buddhist monastics are. And, you walk down the street and they say Hare Krishna. And, I have all sorts of stories I could tell you. But it's very heartening to see the people come together like this. So that's where I was all last week. And now I'm here, and after the talk, I go to the airport and I go back to Sravasti Abbey, where I live, where we have a Buddhist monastery. We're north of Spokane, and so you're all invited to come there when you would like. It's quite a beautiful place, and we have a very nice community there. Okay, so we're talking about practicing Dharma during living and dying, huh? That's a big topic. Yeah, quite a big topic. During living. What I was thinking of is, Nagarjuna in his book Precious Garland, which is such a wonderful book. We were reading from it yesterday at DFF. There's a book called Practical Ethics, Profound Emptiness that is Khensur Jampa Tekchok's teachings on Nagarjuna's text. And Nagarjuna sets out 2 aims that we're trying to actualize, practicing at living and at the time of death. And so one is to obtain a higher rebirth, and the second one is to attain the highest good, meaning liberation from cyclic existence and full awakening. And he says our final aim is full awakening. But in order to reach that, we need a series of higher rebirths, because chances are we won't get enlightened this lifetime, although they say motivate to do that, but don't get depressed if you don't. Yeah. So, he says really spend your life purifying negativities, creating merit, planting seeds of the Dharma in your own mind, so that in the next life, so that first of all we can have a good rebirth, and not be born in the lower realms, but, have a precious human life, be born in the pure realms, and then having taken a good rebirth, so that we'll have seeds of Dharma planted in our mind, so when we start to study the scriptures, they won't seem foreign to us. Yeah? We'll have heard them before in previous lives, and some kind of feeling of familiarity will come. So I want to ask you a question, yeah? When you first heard Dharma teachings, did you have some feeling like, oh, this is something I already believe? Did you have that feeling? Yeah? Like, it's something I already believe, and now I'm hearing somebody say it. Yeah? So that kind of thing, I think, comes because of previous lives, when we've had familiarity with the Dharma, we've studied it, we've learned it, there are those seeds in our mind, and then this lifetime, we meet teachers, we have access to a beautiful center and monastery, like Sakya Monastery, and then those seeds get watered, and we go, oh, this is very familiar. Yeah? So if we can see how that carries from one lifetime to the next, from past lifetime to this lifetime, and now this lifetime listening to a lot of teachings, practicing them as much as you can, and then next lifetime, yeah, then same thing will happen. Except next lifetime we'll have more familiarity with the teachings and the practices because of having done them this lifetime. Yeah. Whereas if we spend this lifetime, what do we do in Seattle for entertainment? Everything. Yeah. You want entertainment, you want distraction. It's all over the city here. Okay. So if we spend our whole life, running around to all the exciting places to go in Seattle and things to do and people to meet, then, will we have created the causes for a good rebirth? Or even if we do, will we have planted the seeds of the Dharma so that we have this feeling of connection next lifetime? Yeah. Because it's very interesting. Sometimes you meet people and they come to the Dharma and it's like it clicks. And other people come and they go, huh? And I had people with one of my teachers. They come and they can't understand what he's saying, just even the words. Yeah, he coughs. His English is, Tibetan English, kind of. But the people can't understand anything. Some people, even though, he's quite highly realized. So, finding the teachers, making that connection in future lives depends on really planting the seeds in our mind this lifetime. Okay? So sometimes we say, well, it's a nice sunny day in Seattle, one time a year the sun came out, and I'd really rather be outdoors, or I don't really feel like hearing a Dharma talk, or I'm too tired to meditate. Yeah, that one. I'm too tired to meditate. I'll do it tomorrow morning. Yeah, mañana en la mañana. And then the next mañana, you're sleeping. Yeah. So the practice never gets done. The seeds don't get planted in the mind. And that's very sad when that happens, because we have quite a remarkable opportunity with our precious human life. Just the fact, having a human body and human intelligence, but we're interested in spiritual matters. Okay? How many people in this country are interested in improving themselves through practicing good ethical conduct? Yeah? Anyone in the Congress, you think? Anyone on Wall Street? How many people have the motivation to really, as a center part of their life, to practice good ethical conduct and to benefit the people around them? How many people have that conscious intention? Yeah. Versus how many people wake up in the morning and say, how can I have happiness? I want this, I want that, I don't like this, I don't like that. Now, when you think about it, then you begin to really appreciate your opportunity, to meet the Dharma, and not only to meet it, but the fact that you have interest in it, the fact that you want to start with the basic Buddhist practice of being a good human being by abandoning negativity and by keeping good ethical conduct. It sounds basic, but when you look around at the world, not so many people are doing that. Okay? So I think it's important that we respect ourselves as Dharma practitioners, that we respect our interest in the Dharma, we respect our spiritual yearning, and we respect those qualities in the other people, the other Buddhists that we meet. Yeah? Because the qualities really aren't so common. And also with people of other religions, it's important to respect those who sincerely practice their religion, because most of or all of the world's religions at the foundation level all teach ethical conduct, love, compassion, forgiveness. And so people who practice that, whatever theology they believe in, doesn't matter, but how they live their lives, then to really respect and appreciate those people. When I was a little kid, our babysitter was an older woman, and she was Episcopalian. Yeah, our family wasn't, but she was a very religious Episcopalian. And looking back now, I think she had a very good influence on my life, because I was a little kid, and she would stay with us. Sometimes my parents would go on trips for a week or whatever. And she taught us to be kind people, and she taught us to be ethical, even though she was a different religion than we are, it didn't matter. And looking back on it now, I really appreciate our babysitter. And I, of course, appreciate my parents who taught me the same thing. Yeah. So what Nagarjuna says, okay, our ultimate aim is full awakening, but we have to create the karma to have a good rebirth. And the foundation of creating that karma is having confidence in the functioning of the law of karma and its effects, the law of actions and their effects. Yeah. In other words, that our actions have an ethical dimension. We don't just act and then there's no result. Okay? So we all know we do actions and then we get an immediate result from them. But here, when we're talking about the law of karma and its effects, we're talking about more longer-term results of our actions. So results that may not come until our next life. And so in that way, we try and keep good ethical conduct and accumulate merit so that it will ripen at the time of death, and our mind will be propelled, our mind will be attracted to a good rebirth where we can continue to practice in our future lives. Okay? And so he says, that to keep, to really live our lives as somebody who believes in or has confidence in the law of karma and its effects, that requires some kind of faith, because we can't see, we're very limited beings, so we can't see the results where you create the cause in one life and you experience the result in another life. Okay? So we're quite limited. We don't have those kinds of super knowledges to be able to see that. So we have to here trust the Buddha. Yeah, so that's why Nagarjuna said that faith is important in the beginning, to trust that when the Buddha talks about karma and its effects, that this is actually true, and that, this system of causation actually exists and it functions. So in our world, there's many systems of causation. Physics is one system, biology, chemistry, psychology, yeah. And then karma It's another system of causation. Yeah. So, the causation in physics or chemistry or what, we can usually see it fairly soon. But the causation between creating an action in one life and experiencing the result in another is it's a hidden phenomena to us limited beings. Now, it does make some sense to us. When we hear what causes happiness and what causes suffering. So another thing Nagarjuna said in the book, Precious Garland, he said that generosity is the cause of wealth and ethical conduct is the cause of good rebirth. Okay? So generosity is the cause of wealth. That kind of makes sense, doesn't it? Because we say what goes around comes around, or what you reap, what you sow. So it makes sense. If we practice generosity, then we receive, material things or whatever it is that we need in the future. And you can see it actually kind of works even in this life, let alone future lives. If we're a generous person, people are very generous back to us. If we're miserly, then what happens? Yeah? Do we like to be around people who are miserly? Not so much. Do we like to be around people who are generous and friendly? Yes. So you can see even in this lifetime, giving brings resources. And not just material things. There's different kinds of generosity. So the generosity of material things is one, but there's also the generosity of protection, where we help beings who are facing difficulty. Yeah? If you're somebody who does that in this lifetime and helps people who are in trouble or having difficulty and problems, chances are other people will help you, even in this lifetime, let alone next lifetime. Yeah? There's the generosity of loving kindness, encouraging people, supporting them when they're down. If we're a good friend to other people, when they go through hardship emotionally, chances are, when we go through those kind of difficulties, people will be there for us. Okay, so we can see the logic in this thing, that generosity is the cause of wealth, and stinginess is the cause of poverty. Now, I had an interesting experience with this. I tend to be rather cheap and not so generous. And after I ordained, I was quite poor. I was in India and I had very little money, no ticket back to the West. And I had very little money, but I had more money than the beggars. But when I would walk to the bazaar to buy food, and the beggars were lined up there, it was difficult for me to give them even enough money for a cup of tea, because my mind was going, oh, if I give the money, I won't have it. If I give this, I won't have it. And I had to push myself, because I was taking teachings every day, and my teacher talked about this kind of thing. And then I wasn't living it. And so I had to, okay, children, you're walking by the beggars, give them something, And I had to really nudge myself on. So I tried, but I was still in my mind quite stingy. And then when my teacher later sent me to Europe to live, I had a lot of economic problems. Yeah, I lived at one Dharma center. They had the nuns live in the horse stables. It was cold in the winter. This was in France, southern France. It was really cold in the winter in the horse stables. And I didn't have enough money to pay to heat my room. So I did a lot of prostrations to try and keep warm. I hope I had a better motivation than just keeping warm for doing the prostrations. I also wanted to purify. But I remember sitting there one day, really cold, with very little money, feeling cold, and also not being able to go and hear teachings because they were charging even the monks and nuns, and I didn't have the money to go. And having a little, that's a whole other topic. I don't agree when Dharma centers do that, but I won't get on that soapbox today. But I remember sitting in the meditation hall and just saying, children, you are reaping the result of your own stinginess. Yeah. And you've got to change because, your poverty in Asia, your poverty here is directly related to your miserliness. And I said, generosity is the cause of wealth, and you're not creating that cause. Not that I wanted to be wealthy, but I would have liked to have enough money to heat the room. Okay? So I started, nudging myself forward, trying to be more generous, yeah, and slowly, and now I have more than I need. Yeah. So it's really kind of remarkable how, when we start to work on the level of karma, how our situation can change. Yeah. I mean, to show you how I suffered from stinginess. Yeah. This is my maroon cashmere sweater story that some of you may have heard. Okay. So I was in Japan one time giving some Dharma talks, and the people who I was staying with had a maroon cashmere sweater that they gave to me. Now, when you're a nun, when you get a maroon sweater, it's a big deal because maroon sweaters are not always available. It's the color of the year only once every how many years. And a cashmere sweater yet, I hit the jackpot, So I love that maroon cashmere sweater. As it happened, I went to Eastern Europe. This must have been 1996, somewhere 95, 96. And I was going around teaching in Eastern Europe. The countries were very poor then, It wasn't long after the Berlin Wall had fallen. So they were just getting on their feet. So I was in Kiev. I was traveling with a translator, and our train arrived in the morning in Kiev, and we were taking an evening train to Donetsk. Yeah, you may have heard these cities in the news because of the war that was going on in Ukraine. So the translator had a friend in Kiev, and he called her and said, "Can we spend the day with you?" So we went over there. She said yes. We had a lovely day. Sasha was a young woman, in her early 20s. She was not rich, but we were guests. So she took out the little bit of special food that she had to share with us because she was guests. I would keep the special food for myself. She didn't. She said, "Here are guests." So she shared that with us. Sasha was my size. And in the evening, when we were taking the, I don't know, the subway or the train, whatever it was, to get to the main train station to take the overnight train to Donetsk. We were standing in the tram, and I had this idea, give Sasha the maroon cashmere sweater, because she lives in Ukraine. She's poor. She gave her treasured special food to us. This is the least I could do. So I said, okay, children, let's give her the sweater. No! Yeah, you'll never get another maroon cashmere sweater. This sweater is so wonderful. Children, come on, let's give it to her. No! Okay, come on, children. We're going to give her the sweater. No, it won't fit her anyway. It will fit her. So the whole way to the train station, I'm having this civil war inside about what to do with the maroon cashmere sweater. And it was like, okay, when you get to the train station, open the suitcase, pull it out, and give it to her. No, you don't want to open your suitcase in the middle of the train station. Okay, then open it when we get on the train. No, because then she'll be on the train, and it'll start moving, and she'll jump out, and she'll get hurt. I had every excuse in the book not to give my maroon cashmere sweater to Sasha. We arrive at the train station, and Sasha goes off for a minute, and she comes back with sweetbread for our trip. Sasha, who doesn't have much money, goes and gets us food for our trip. Children, you're going to give her that sweater. No! Finally, we got on the train, and I'm going, okay, you better do it now. And I actually managed to open my suitcase and give her that sweater. And she lit up. It was amazing. She was so happy to receive this sweater. And I thought to myself, how could I have been so stingy that I almost missed this chance to make somebody so happy like that? We got on the train, we went to Donetsk, we came back. That train trip was another story. We get back to Kiev, and Sasha is waiting at the train station to help us. And the weather turned, it was warm then, but she was still wearing the sweater when she met us at the train station. Yeah. So these kinds of things, happen in your life, and they're like living Dharma teachings. Yeah? Right there. You don't need, you may have read the Lamrim teachings, or, the overcoming the four clingings, or, any of these kinds of wonderful texts. But when you have something in your life happen like that, then it's like, okay, these teachings are true. Because I really saw, it was so vivid for me, when my mind was stingy, how much internal conflict I had about not wanting to give give her the sweater, and how miserable I was being stingy, and how happy I was once I gave her the sweater. And I've lived fine afterwards. I'm not freezing from lack of a maroon sweater. So, these things stick in your mind, and you really begin to have faith in karma and its effects, that our actions do have an ethical dimension, and that karma functions. And when we talk about creating merit, yeah, and merit is not a very good word for the Sanskrit word punya. Because merit means good karma. Okay, we hear the word merit and we think of like getting gold stars on your spelling tests in school. That shows my generation. I don't think they do that. Do they do that anymore? Do they give you gold stars? Anyway, merit just means good karma. And how important it is to use our life to create that kind of goodness. Yeah. For a few reasons. First of all, when we create goodness, we are directly benefiting other people. Yeah. And so we're directly contributing to the welfare of other living beings and directly improving society. Yeah. So, in the age of Trump, we sometimes go, what can I do? It's all out of my hands. I have no power. We have a lot of power. In our own worlds, the people we encounter day to day, we can help them in their lives. Yeah? And as we do so through practicing generosity, ethical conduct, fortitude, and so on, then they directly benefit. And by benefiting others, we accumulate merit, we accumulate good karma, which is the cause for obtaining a precious human life or some kind of good rebirth, so we can continue practicing the Dharma next life and eventually attain full awakening. So what we find when we understand karma and its effects is that helping others and helping ourselves comes to the same point. And this is very important because we often think, if I help others, I will suffer. Like I said before, if I'm generous, then I won't have it. Okay? That's the wrong way to think, because when we help others, we create virtue. And that virtue, that, spiritual goodness, is what is going to bring us good results along the path. Okay? So it's not a choice of, if I benefit others, I lose out. It's, when I benefit others, I gain. Mm-hmm. And I'm saying that because in a Judaic Christian culture, we sometimes have the notion that if to act with compassion means that we must sacrifice something and endure suffering. And if we aren't suffering and sacrificing, then we don't have genuine compassion. Do you ever have that feeling from the kind of background you grew up in? No? I mean, I see it in the figure of Jesus on the cross, That's, to be compassionate, you have to suffer. That, there's, in our culture, there's that, for some people anyway, that association. In Buddhism, there's not. Yeah? In other words, when we act with compassion, we feel joyful. And His Holiness the Dalai Lama talks about this a lot. And he says, it's so interesting to listen to him. He says, we think that when we're compassionate and do something for someone else, that they are the one who benefit. and they're happy because we gave them something, we did something, we offered service, we helped them out. And we're the one who kind of, gave up something to help someone else. So we think compassion, the one who benefits from compassion and feels happy from compassion, when I'm compassionate, is the other person. And His Holiness says, no, that from his experience, when he gives to others, he's the one who benefits the most and who feels the happiest. Because when you give to others, you can't control their response. Some people are happy, some people ignore your gift, some people may not like it. You may offer to help somebody and they say no, or, whatever it is. We can't control the other person's response to our act of generosity or help. So he says, if we have the motivation of compassion and help with that motivation, then we are automatically happy no matter how the other person responds. Because sometimes in our life, when we give, we are waiting for somebody to tell us how wonderful we are. Okay? Do you ever do that? Yeah? It's like, I gave you a present. You better show that you're really happy and love what I gave you, even though you may not. Yeah? Or I gave you a present. You better not give it away to anybody else or I'll be offended. Yeah? So, and then, if we do something for somebody and they don't say thank you, then it's like, that person has no manners. I did something for them. They can't even say thank you. Yeah, I'm waiting for my thank you. I did something. You owe me a thank you. All of that kind of stuff, shows that our motivation was somehow tainted. We wanted something back from the generosity. So His Holiness says when we just give freely like that, then the act of giving, the act of helping itself is our quote, quote, reward, is our satisfaction, is what makes us happy. Yeah? So it's very interesting to remember this and to train our mind in this way, so that we're not waiting for something in return, and so that we can really give with a feeling of joy, no matter how the person reacts. Okay, let me tell you another story. Some Dharma teachings I tell a lot of stories, some I don't tell many. You're getting some stories. So I was living in India, and I wanted to give my teacher a gift. So I went down into the bazaar and I got a little bit of a brocade. I wasn't rich, but I had a little bit of money at that point. So I got some brocade, brought it back to my room, and then I hand-stitched some book covers, because you know how we wrap our Dharma books in cloth to protect them. So I hand-sewed some book covers out of this brocade and put my own effort into it. They were really kind of pretty. And I thought, I'm giving these to my teacher, and I feel really happy about giving them to him. But I also know that my teacher likes giving things away. So I was prepared. So one morning I went to see him. I gifted him the book covers. He just kind of said, thank you. That's it. And then I left, and I was standing outside in the garden talking to some friends, and another geshe went in to visit my teacher. And when he walked out, this geshe was carrying the book covers that I had just given to my teacher. And I just said, wonderful, you know? Wonderful. I felt happy giving them. My teacher felt happy giving them. The geshe may have given them to somebody else. You know, hopefully they won't be like the one fruitcake at Christmas time that everybody gives away. Because usually it's you don't like that fruitcake. But here I think it's because people like the book covers. You know, maybe they kept getting given away. Yeah? So it's a thing of working with our mind and changing how we think. Yeah? And then... your experience changes. Otherwise, you know, if I had had a lot of attachment, like, you know, it was my gift that I hand sewed, and he only kept them in his room for 15 minutes before he gave them away, you know, that means he didn't like my gift. That means he doesn't like me. You see the wrong inferences we make? Somebody doesn't like my gift, that means they don't like me. That means I failed. Oh, boo-hoo, boo-hoo. Okay? So, you know, you just see, I'm not going there. Thinking like that is ridiculous. That's not a Dharma way of thinking. Yeah? When we give something to somebody, it is theirs, and they can do with it what they want. And, you know, they can give it away, they can do whatever. So this is quite important. Otherwise, you know, you give somebody a gift, then next time you go see them, you know, are they wearing what I gave them? Is it in their house? You know, are they serving it for lunch? And our mind is, we gave the gift, but our mind is still attached to it. It's no longer ours, but our mind is attached. Yeah, something's wrong there. Yeah, when we give, it is no longer ours. Okay? I'm trying to decide which story to tell you next. Yeah, as long as I'm talking about giving, because giving really brings a lot of joy to the heart. So once when I was teaching at DFF, some of you may have remembered this, we were doing the far-reaching practice of giving. So I gave everybody the assignment, you know, from this week until next week, clean out one bureau, one set of chest of drawers, or one closet. You don't have to do your whole house, just one thing. And take everything that you haven't used in a year, put it in a box, and then take it to a charity and give it away. Because if you've had it for a whole year and you haven't used it, you probably don't need it, because you've gone through all 4 seasons. Do you remember that? So we come back the next week, and I asked everyone, well, how did you do? You know, what did you discover? Well, some people said, well, yeah, I cleaned things out, and I put them in a box, but the box never made it to my car. Or the box made it to the trunk of my car, but I wanted to go to that charity, but I never kind of made it to the charity. And then one person, it was so cute, she said, I cleaned out a chest of drawers, and I found a T-shirt that I had forgotten I had. And it was a T-shirt I got on my trip to Mexico. And I forgot I had it, but once I found it, I didn't want to give it away. Yeah? She said, so I still have that T-shirt in my dress, in my chest of drawers. And I'm working on the other stuff to give it away to a charity. So it's interesting, because you have stuff, you don't use it, you don't even remember you have it, but it's so hard to give it away. Yeah? This mind that thinks if I give, I won't have, is a mind of poverty. And that mind makes us suffer. Because however much we have, we never feel like we have enough. And that's why sometimes, I don't know if you've experienced this, but I have, when you're with people who don't have much, they're quite generous. And when you're with people who have a lot, some of them have a harder time giving. Yeah. One time when I lived in India, I was friends with one older Tibetan nun. And she invited me to her hut one day for tea. She lived in the hut with her sister. Okay, so it was on the side of the hill. This was many years ago. Dharamsala has changed since then. But her hut was made of bricks on the side, and then these big tins that they stored ghee in were cut open, and that formed the roof. Okay, so these tin can roofs. Dirt floor. She had a small kerosene stove, and made me tea and gave me kapse. I'm sure you have kapse here. Yeah, they're the Tibetan version of cookies. Yeah, except they're nothing like cookies. They're fried dough, okay? And if they put sugar on them, they're good. If they don't put sugar on them, then it's flour and oil. So depends on what you like. Anyway, so she would share her kapse with me. And kapse are a treat. You get them at Losar, and then you keep them for the next few months and share them with your friends. And she was quite generous, amazingly generous, considering her living situation. So there's just a lot to think about here, in terms of what causes happiness and what causes suffering. So on an immediate level, what actions do we do that bring us happiness? And on a long-term level, what actions do we do that create the cause for future life's happiness? And do we pay attention to this on a day-to-day basis? Or are our minds tangled up in what we call the 8 worldly concerns? Have you heard of the 8 worldly concerns? Yeah? My teacher, taught on the 8 worldly concerns. It was one of his favorite topics. That and the suffering of samsara. Over and over and over again. Yeah. The disadvantages of the 8 worldly concerns, the drawback of samsara. And we come in and we want to hear light, love, bliss. And then my teacher's talking about the exact opposite. And I was actually, as time went on, I was extremely grateful. And now when I see him, I thank him for teaching us the drawbacks of attachment to worldly things and the drawbacks of samsara, because I really see that to have a stable Dharma practice, or to have any Dharma practice, we have to have some awareness of the disadvantages of our present situation and the disadvantages of the cause that we create to keep our samsara, our cyclic existence going again and again and again. Okay? Because most worldly beings, we're just captivated by the 8 worldly concerns. And in our world, this is what people want. Okay? Do you remember the 8? No. Okay. They're in 4 pairs. Okay? The first pair is delight in getting money and material possessions, and dismay when we don't get them, when somebody steals them, when they get destroyed or we lose them. Okay? Do you have that delight and dismay? But yeah, it's not exactly hope and fear, but it's similar. It's, I got something I like. Oh, I didn't get it. It broke. I'm separated. Okay. So that's one pair. Second pair is we want praise and approval. And we don't want blame and disapproval. And sometimes I think even more than wanting money and possessions, we want praise and approval. Yeah? We want people to say, "You're so wonderful. I love you. You're the one and only. Yeah, nobody is better than you. You did such a wonderful job. You're talented and rich and intelligent and athletic and musical and artistic, and you're so sensitive, and you're such a good listener, and you're a leader." And then we go, "Oh boy, now I believe in myself." Somebody just got done singing my praises. Now I feel good about myself. Yeah. So we want this. Yeah. Do you ever go fishing for compliments or praise? Yeah. You go, "No, not me. No." When you go step out, you say, "How do I look?" Yeah. The other person's supposed to give a certain answer. Yeah. Or, "Do you think I did a good job with this?" Okay. So we want praise and approval. And we hate criticism and disapproval. Yeah. We hate criticism. Don't you hate criticism? Nobody likes to be criticized. How dare people criticize me? I don't do anything wrong. Yeah, if there's a mistake, it's somebody else's fault. How dare they criticize me? And even if I did make a mistake, it was a little one. And even if it was a little one, they're not supposed to notice it. And even if they notice it, they're supposed to forgive me and not comment on my mistakes. But these sentient beings, what do? They point out all my faults. Can you imagine? And they even point out faults that I don't have and accuse me of things that I don't do. Okay. Can't somebody just love me? Can't they tell me I'm good? I don't want to hear criticism and disapproval. I can't stand when people said, "You idiot, you did that. What did you expect was going to happen?" People aren't supposed to say that to me. Yeah, they should say that to other people who are the idiots. I'm not an idiot. I just once in a while don't make such good decisions. But they don't need to criticize me. So we get really bent out of shape when we're criticized, don't we? Yeah? When you have review at work and somebody points out something that you didn't do so well, what happens? Yeah. They may point out 10 things you did well, but when you leave the meeting, what do you focus on? The one thing they said, I botched up. Okay, so again, another series of attachment to one thing, aversion, disappointment, dismay with the other one, with its opposite. Okay, then we go on. Those are only 4 of the 8. There's still 2 more to go, 2 more sets to go. So then the next pair is attachment to having a good reputation and aversion to having a bad one. Attachment to a good reputation. Who embodies that in the world today? Okay. Well, there's probably one person we think of first, but there's a few other people like that too. And we just got done with a hearing for the Supreme Court, which was all about reputation, wasn't it? Someone's attachment to his reputation. So we want a good reputation, and we can't just point the fingers at other people. Because, okay, we may not be a politician or somebody big in society, but among our own groups, we want a good reputation. If you're a member of Sakya Monastery, you want everybody else who's a member here to know what a good Dharma practitioner you are. Yeah. In your office, you want to have a good reputation. If your hobby is bowling, or growing bonsai trees, or surfing, you want everybody else who does those things to know that you really excel at them. Yeah. Whatever it is, we want a good reputation, and we don't want a bad one. We don't want people talking behind our backs saying, oh, look at that person. Look how he or she acted. Oh. And then getting a bad reputation among a group. Yeah, we don't want that at all. That's the third pair. Do you have those? Do you have that pair of attachment and aversion? Oh, you're all going, oh, what a nice thing over there. Mm-hmm. You know, we have these, don't we? Then the fourth pair is attachment to sense objects, beautiful sense experiences. We want to see beautiful things, so we want beautiful clothes. We want to live in a beautiful house. We want to see, clean streets. And we don't want to see ugly things. Okay? That's the eye. Ear, we want to hear beautiful sounds, the kind of music we like. We don't want to hear the music of the generation that's older than us or the generation that's younger than us, because their music is awful. Yeah. We want to hear beautiful sounds. We don't like nails on chalkboards, but nobody has chalkboards nowadays. What else don't we like? Yeah, there's lots of sounds that we don't like. Okay, so, hearing those. Sometimes the ringtone on people's telephones. Oh my goodness, spare me. Smells. Yeah, we want to smell nice things. Yeah, we don't want to smell dirty streets and unclean bathrooms. Okay. Taste. We want to taste good food. We don't want to taste burned stuff. We don't want to taste the food that we don't like. Tactile sensations. Yeah. We like the temperature to be good. We don't want it too hot or too cold. We like smooth things on our skin, not rough. Yeah, we want soft things, not hard. Yeah, we want people to, touch us in a nice way. We don't want them to touch us like that. Okay? So, tactile sensation too, delighting unpleasant sensations, hating the unpleasant ones. So these 8 that come in 4 pairs, this is what we spend most of our life running after or running away from. Okay, think about it. Yeah, you have a precious human life with the ability to create so much merit, purify negative karma, listen to Dharma teachings, put them into practice. But what do we spend most of the day thinking about? Okay. What gets you out of bed in the morning? Yeah, the alarm rings. Oh, I don't like that sound. Aversion to unpleasant sounds. Oh, but if I get out of bed, I can have some coffee. Okay. Starbucks. I live in Seattle. Personally, I can't stand coffee. That doesn't get me out of bed. Oh, what do I have to do today? Oh, I have to go to work. And I see this person who doesn't like me, who criticizes me. And then I see that other person, and I know they don't think very well of me. I have a bad reputation with them. But then I get to see this other person. Woo, goody, because they praise me. They think I'm wonderful. Yeah? Then, I gotta eat a bag lunch today. Oh, no, I get to go out for lunch today. And someone else is paying for it. That's even better. Yeah. So by attachment to these 8 worldly concerns, we spend our life chasing after pleasures that don't last very long. Yeah? How long does the pleasure from somebody praising you last? How long does the taste of chocolate last? Yeah. But yet we spend our whole lives chasing that. And we spend our lives trying to get away from what we don't like. And yet those things are temporary too. How long does cold weather last? Yeah, well, it lasted until what time? 1 o'clock today. But now it's sunny out. Okay? So what I'm getting at here is we have the potential with this life to create the cause of awakening, to create the causes for a good life in the future, to plant seeds of the Dharma in our mind by studying and meditating and thinking about the teachings. And yet, we're so enthralled with external objects, temporary external objects, that we spend most of our life running towards them or running away from them. And in the process of doing that, we create a lot of negative karma. Yeah? To get the things that we want, we may take what has not been freely given to us. Yeah? To get away from what we don't like, we may kill or physically injure others. Yeah? The prospect of having an affair is there, and nobody will find out. So we have an affair until, of course, somebody finds out. Then we have problems. So, then we lie to get what we want. We talk harshly behind people's back when they ruin our reputation. We talk harshly to their face when they criticize us. So you see, due to the 8 worldly concerns, we become very unhappy over things that are transient, that don't last long. And in the process, then we do actions that put imprints on our mind that will bring us unpleasant situations in the future. Whereas, if we're able to distance ourselves, from the 8 worldly concerns, then we have so much time to turn our mind and our energies into creating goodness in the world. And as we talked about at the beginning of the talk, when we create goodness, when we do things for others, we feel much happier than when we cheat and do things behind people's back to get what we want. Okay, are you getting what I'm saying? Is this making some sense to you? Yeah? So this kind of thing, it's really good. Take it home and think about it. And really make examples in your life. And then use, what you've thought about to really motivate you to turn your mind towards goodness, towards being of benefit to sentient beings. Yeah, towards controlling your anger. Okay? Because when you've looked at how this thing works and you can see it in your own life, then it's not like, oh, well, I should be generous or I should be kind. But when you've really understood with your own wisdom the results of kindness and the results of self-centeredness, then it's no longer should, it's I want to be kind. I want to abandon my self-centeredness. And that gives your Dharma practice a whole different flavor. Because you want to do it, because you see the benefits. And, the benefits are right there for you to experience here and now, as well as the peace that comes to your mind, knowing that you're creating the cause for a good future rebirth, for liberation and enlightenment. And so then, when you reach the point of the time of death, you don't have any regrets. You don't have any fear, because you know that you've used your life in a wise way to create goodness for yourself and others. Yeah? And so then, at the time of death, you can think, this was a life well lived. And I can rejoice in my virtue, rejoice in my goodness, rejoice at the bit of love and compassion that I cultivated in this life. And I can take that kind heart and the merit with me into my next life. So then at the time of death, we have a feeling of spiritual richness, and we dedicate it, and we aspire, by virtue of what I did this life, may I have a good rebirth in the next life. May I meet the teachings when I'm young. May I find a fully qualified Mahayana and Vajrayana master. May I practice well. Yeah. And then you just die, and there's no regrets, there's no fear, because you spent your life in a good way. And what more could we ask for? Yeah? Okay. Yes. So, question about balance. So sometimes giving too much and feeling resentful, sometimes not giving enough and feeling resentful. So I think this is a problem that all of us share. Other people have this problem? Yeah, I think it's a very common problem. And I think what we do is we have to experiment and learn how to keep ourselves balanced. Yeah. And learn, okay, I can do this much. If I push myself too hard, I'm going to feel resentful. If I nudge myself 1 millimeter, I can do that and not feel resentful. Okay? So there are some situations we have to be reasonable about what we can do. Yeah? And sometimes, if you don't feel like you can do so much, accept that. Sometimes if you feel you can't do so much, then at least have the aspiration to be able to do more in the future. And sometimes when you can't do so much, we nudge ourselves that 1 millimeter. Not push ourselves, just nudge a little bit. Okay? To see we have that capacity. If we push ourselves and we find that we're becoming resentful, then we have to stop and talk to ourselves and say, why am I, despairing because of virtue I created? If I regret, being virtuous, then I'm destroying that virtue. So, okay, I may have pushed myself too much, but you know what? I'll live, and other people benefit, and I created goodness and good karma. So I'm going to rejoice at what I did, and next time I'll just be a little bit more moderate. Exactly, that's what I was saying, that it isn't a choice between helping others and helping ourselves. When we help others, we help ourselves. Okay? When we have compassion for others, we're being compassionate for ourselves because we're creating the cause for our own happiness. So we need to learn how to be kind to ourselves and know that kindness to ourselves is very different than self-indulgent. Okay? Self-indulgent, no, that's not good English. Self-indulging? Yeah. Self-indulgent, that's an adjective. If I am self-indulgent, okay, then, when we're self-indulgent, I don't know about you, but I kind of know it inside. And it's like, I like what I did, but then I don't feel so good inside. So, if I remember, how I feel about myself is actually more important than whether I got this little piece of chocolate or not. Yeah? So be kind to myself and do the things that are going to make me happy in the long run. But also be practical and don't stretch myself so thin that I get angry and resentful at other people. And don't stretch myself so thin that I get sick and then everybody else has to take care of me. So it's this thing of being practical and accepting ourselves, accepting what we're capable of doing, and just saying, that's good enough. Instead of saying, oh, I should be able to do more, so-and-so does more. If only I had more compassion, I would go and do this, but I'm so selfish. How bad I am, whip, whip, whip. That is totally useless. Okay? We just have to be kind to ourselves. I'm done what I'm capable of doing. I rejoice at that, and that's good enough. And as I go forward in the future, slowly, I can do a little bit more. So that my Dharma practice is something comfortable. Dharma practice should not be a cause of guilt. Okay? Well, I think you just did a good job. And I think at the beginning I talked about that, didn't I? The joy you feel when you give. And we should feel happy. You know, this is another misconception from our culture, that if we're happy, we should feel guilty. You know, no, we should be happy. But we have to look at what makes us happy. And being happy because we put somebody else down and got our revenge is not the right kind of happiness. But when we can feel happy because we did something kind and we see that other people benefit, then that's real delight and real happiness. Yeah, that's what we should go for. Okay. So let's sit quietly for a couple of minutes. I call this digestion meditation. So think about what you've heard so you can take it home with you and practice it more. Then let's rejoice at all the merit and the goodness that we created as individuals and as a group this afternoon. And then let's send that out into the universe. You can think of it as light radiating from your heart center, touching all the living beings, bringing them physical and mental peace. And then let's dedicate for our own and all other living beings full awakening. So I want to thank everybody at Sakya Monastery so much for inviting me to come here and for being such a good audience. And you have a wonderful place here, not just the beauty of the Gompa, but, a Dagmola is a real treasure. So take advantage and ask her to teach and really learn from her. She's quite precious. Okay. Good. Thank you.